reduce your risk of getting cancer.
And OBGYN Dr. Brian Baer is here joining us live this afternoon. And you were saying that there is some new information coming from the World Health Organization about their guidelines. And can you explain that?
Well, this is actually an expansion of their guidelines from 2003. And really it involves the science of prevention. And what they want is they want the people of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin to get serious about preventing cancer. And that's what it's all about.
And what are some of those things we should be doing then?
Well, I think that the basic things that we already know are to limit our tobacco intake, to live in a smoke-free environment, and then all common sense things like increase your level of physical activity, eat well, and they specifically talk about eating more vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. They talk about lowering our caloric intake in foods, less salt, and less processed foods. And lastly, game changer is limit your alcohol intake.
Okay, and that's kind of hard for us in Milwaukee. However, you spoke about that this is a revision of guidelines. What has actually changed on the list?
Well, the one thing that they did change that was previously on the list was to say instead of avoiding obesity that they want us to maintain a healthy weight. I think it has a much more positive connotation and maybe more inviting for people to consider.
I also saw on that list, obviously a no-brainer, but an issue more and more, particularly the young women dealing with tanning beds.
Absolutely, and that's number one on the new list is avoid a lot of sun exposure and a lot of sun tanning for skin cancer prevention. And the thing that I found the most interesting on the list was they finally came out and said we need to think about radon exposure, which is very important for Wisconsin. People need to check their homes for radon. It's like, with high radon levels, it's like smoking packs of cigarettes a day and increases your risk of lung cancer.
You also mentioned breastfeeding.
Well, breastfeeding and breast cancer reduction, and along those lines, actually discussing with your doctor hormone replacement therapy and the risks of cancer with that.
Can we talk about the different screenings?
Yes, the screenings that they are referring to include colon cancer screening, which we talked a little bit about last week, but they also want us to emphasize breast cancer screening, which this is the month to do so, and then for women, cervical cancer screening. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't say vaccinate, and they specifically talked about hepatitis B for newborns and HPV screening for young people.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, if you have a question for our experts, simply email them to asktheexpert@todaystmj4.com. You can also leave a voice message at the number you see below, 967-50.